Welcome back to Business Daily here on Trust TV. Now, joining me in the studio to have our conversation this morning is JohnBosco Ezenwa. He's a business development consultant. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you, Chiamaka.
All right, so we've had quite a lot of stories that we've looked at this morning. Let's take a look at some of them. Of course, the first story is our conversation. So we'll touch that now. We'll get into it later in the program. The OPS, that's the Organized Private Sector, is asking the National Assembly to withdraw the Customs Excise Tariff Amendment Bill. And they've made quite a number of statements here. And one of the things that they said that pointed out is that the National Assembly, for advancing the amendment, we're criticizing them without adequate engagement with the Ministry of Finance, the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, FAC, and other relevant institutions. What does that go to say about some of the things that we bring? Now, it's economical, so let's try to hone into the business and economic part of the conversation. Some of the things that are being touted out, and we see it happen. Not once, not twice. The government will say, we're going to do this. After there's an outcry, they pull back. Now, why would a bill be brought forward without speaking to the relevant authorities?
Oh, great. So the organized private sector haven't followed the bill this far. I've expressed this concern, because on the flip side, the government have plans to improve certain aspects of the economy, and that also means strengthening businesses that are owned or run by this organized private sector. Now, in that light, if the government wants to do this, there are already policies and acts that the government want to implement in that light. But then you have the National Assembly, in their regard, has moved on to pass such bill, disregarding all of the plans that the government would have had. For example, the CIT, you also have things around the capital gain tax and all of that, capital gains and interest and all of that. So the private sector, organized sector looked at it and said, you know what, all of these things the government plan will be eroded if this bill is passed. All of the plans for government will be eroded. So it's important for us to voice that out so that the government can start all of their engagement. If peradventure, if there are no handshake across board, say within the National Assembly and the ministry that has put up all of these policies to support businesses in Nigeria.
Now let's go to another story. The CBN asking the banks to withdraw all misleading advertisements in Nigeria. Now we see that these things happen a lot, oh, you save 5,000. Well, as they say, they don't want those kind of promos anymore where there's like inducing people to do things. What do you make of this story, and what impact do you think it's going to have with the way promos and the way things are run, in the banking sector?
Okay, this is very important, really. It's commendable coming from the CBN because so far you see the kind of adverts that has come from money deposit banks and some other banking institutions inducing, or better still, promising juicy offers to the populace and say, if you save this particular amount of naira, so period, if you leave them for this stretch, you'll get this dividend. And really, sometimes these things are not kept, the promises are not kept, so it's causing mistrust among the community and population. So it's important that the CBN has stepped up to say, you know what, you can't do this anymore because this is serious business. You can't go with any form of chance with people's funds, because some people would go as far as lending money from so many people to put in the bank and get up to that threshold where they can benefit from this. And when they don't, there are cases in court, you must know this, there are cases in court where people don't get this, and then maybe they have taken funds from neighbors or family. It's already an issue. So the CBN haven't seen this. It means they are actually monitoring. So it's important that banks come forward with their promotional materials, but that's going to decrease the creativity of the media team in banks. Well, it's fine, because this is people's fund, people's money. This is the economy we are talking about. We can't jeopardize with it. The populace must know where the economy is heading, what it means if I put my money, what will I get in return, not ambiguous, not overrated, no form of arbitrariness. So this is very important for it to happen in the banking sector.
Now, one of the stories that we had on the top stories this morning was about FAN talking about a fake job. And I'm going to just talk about that briefly because I've happened to be opportuned to know about 3 or 4 people who have been at that receiving end. And why I'm saying about this morning mostly is that people are aware. I know that things are seemingly hard, and I know that we need to we want better for ourselves, but if it seems too good to be true, please do your checks. Please really do your checks. One had to pay money. One paid, I don't know, they told them one story about, oh, but you have to do this, to that, and all that. So if it seems too good to be true, please always verify. Always go to the website, the original website of the companies that sent you this supposed employment for jobs you didn't even apply for in the first place, and be sure that nobody's everybody's doing their own hustling, some legal, some illegal. Don't be at the receiving end of an illegal person's hustle. So that's it on that front this morning. Let's get to our conversation and let's look at the CIT has surged to 38% in the first half of 2025. Now, I read all that information, but in case you're just joining us, I'll go through it again. Nigeria generated 4.76 trillion naira in CIT during first half of 2025. That's half one. In your papers, you see it as H1. So when you see things like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 in your dailies, it just means quarter one, that is January to March, quarter two, April to June, quarter three, July to September, and quarter four, October to December. If you see H1, H2, it means first half of the year. H2, second half of the year. So that's from January to June and July to December. So just understand those numbers and symbols when you see them. So now, in the first half of 2025, the CIT generated 4.76 trillion naira, up from 3.45 trillion naira from the quarter one of 2024. That's a year ago, a 38% increase year on year. On a quarter-to-quarter basis, CIT rose from 1.98 trillion naira in quarter one of this year to 2.78 trillion naira in quarter two of this year, a 40% jump. Now, the bulk of the increase came from domestic companies. The CIT contributions surged from about 646.51 billion naira in quarter one to 2.31 billion naira in quarter two. That's about 250% increase quarter on quarter and 71% increase against quarter two. That's year on year 2024. Now, in contrast, however, foreign companies' CIT payments fell sharply. It dropped from 1.34 trillion naira to 469.36 billion naira in quarter two, a 65% fall quarter on quarter and 58% drop year on year compared to the same time in 2024. By sector, the financial and insurance industry were the top contributor, remitting 1.02 trillion naira, representing about 44% of all domestic CIT. Now, other notable contributors were the manufacturing and the mining and quarrying sector. Now, all these numbers, we've read it, all this information, we've put it out there. What do you make of this, and what does it actually mean for us?
Okay, so interestingly, this is good news, right? Because it means that the companies in Nigeria, the domestic companies, are already preparing for the tax regime. They are now getting, like machine learning, they're already trained. All of this contribution they've made is that they are now trained to take on their tax deposits and do all of the tax that needs to happen, make sure they remit all of their taxes for next year when the tax regime starts proper. On the flip side, it also shows that only Nigerians can save Nigerians, because you see the domestic companies are doing better than the foreign one. But not to say it's possible also on the flip side that more domestic companies have come to light, right? And that's how you see this kind of projections that we're seeing. Also, but I must say this, all of the domestic companies that has contributed to this growth in the CIT, they will continue, but there are things they are looking forward to especially to know where the taxes will improve their businesses. If this is not shown from next year, or say from H1 next year, H1 2026, we may get a relapse. Because the questions on the lips of major Nigerians are, okay, if I start paying my taxes, because if I start paying my taxes, what will be the dividend for me, or the dividends for us as a nation? Very important. Yes, it's difficult now to tell Nigerians to pay their taxes because we're not used to that. But it's not arguable, right? If you are living, if you do business, you should know that you pay your taxes, because taxes are for income distribution. They are to solve issues and all of that for the government. So it's important that the tax companies, the companies that are paying these taxes, begin to see dividends for these taxes that they are paying in terms of infrastructural growth that will happen, in terms of possibly impute credit on VAT. This is key, so that companies will know that, you know what, we're appreciated for doing this, and we'll go on to do more. We'll go on to create more productivity in the economy. So I think it's good for the government, it's good for us as a country. It's good that people are now getting ready for the tax regime that starts up in January 2026.
All right, so now, you talked about the domestic part. You said it's a great thing, but while they've gone better, 250% increment is a great one, wonderful. But the foreign part saw a negative decline, it went down. What could have informed that move? Okay,
so two reasons. Number one, just quite recently, you know, we have this Nigeria-USA standoff in terms of terrorism and all of that, you know. So companies are diversifying. So it means that the investors' confidence from the end of the foreign investor may not be complete. It means that they have reasons to want to redistribute their equity across board, right? So that may have contributed. And on the flip side, secondly, could be that there are no new entries. We could still be on the same number of companies before now, or the companies that exist before now. Some of them have pulled off, some of them have reinvested their equity across other opportunities.
Okay, now one of the things that we saw happen that brought about this again is the financial sectors, the banking sectors, yes, industrial sectors, and we've known so far this year, we've seen that they've actually done quite well, although when the whole story about the that thing about the what I'm looking for, but that the banks were actually, the CBN was actually helping them,
yes,
because stocks fell down a bit, yes, for these people. Now, what does it tell for us that the banking sector is leading as opposed to the, yes, the manufacturing is there, but like the difference is quite clear.
Yeah.
They're second, but the difference between that and what the financial sector brought in and what the manufacturing brought in is quite different. What does that tell to shows for our economy? What does that actually, you know, give us for the economy?
Yes, it's important that they are actually the first, because they're the big money house. Okay. You know, they are the ones managing the finance. So it's the financial institutions and the insurance companies. So this is they are huge. They're the biggest players. You know, because year on year they declare huge profits and all of that. So it's important to see that they are also paying taxes on those profits that are declared. So it's good that they are number one. That means that the data we're getting is good. The data means the data is complete and it's consistent. Now, manufacturing is next, because, you know, now there's opportunity for manufacturers, given that other goods, imported goods, are quite expensive. We also have issue of foreign exchange, and inflation is troubling at one end. Also for the banks, the recapitalization happening in the bank means that the banks must show that they're able to pay their taxes, given the huge recapitalization going on. And you also know that the foreign exchange have been quite stable lately. So these are contributing to the fact that the financial houses and the insurance houses are doing better on that chart. Now the manufacturing coming next is also important. It shows that they are also building the muscle to do a lot of production for H1 next year, and also save the economy in terms of Nigerians, low-class Nigerians, or any person in Nigeria can afford in-house goods and choose in-house goods against foreign or imported goods. And so they have choices. They are creating choices for Nigeria. It means that there will be markets for manufacturing next year as well.
I know we don't have the complete information. This is just for Q1 of 2025, and
Sure.
by next year we should have more
H2.
information of H2. However, with this now on ground, this information that we have, what are we looking at for 2026?
Great. So as I mentioned earlier, this is very good for us. It means that the tax regime that is about to roll out in 2026, the government won't struggle, or even the companies won't struggle in remitting taxes and paying up any form of things on their equity investments, right? So this is very good. Now, on the flip side, it means that there will be distribution of income, distribution of the economy across board. Now, because taxes help to distribute wealth across board, where we can afford to take on some social interventions and all of that. Now, these are also good. But on the flip side, it's important that also companies are shown how they can benefit from these taxes. It's not going to be business as usual, right? Because it's a shame that companies and individuals are now told to pay taxes. We've not been doing this holistically for years. It's a crying shame, but it's important that we're here now.
How is it a shame?
It's a shame because you can't tell people who do business to pay taxes and chase them to pay taxes, because on the flip side, average Nigeria will tell you, I'm not seeing the dividend of my tax. Where are the roads? Where are where are the schools? So it's justified to ask all of this. That's why it's important for the government or the handlers of the tax to also show what this taxes has achieved. Nigerians must see it, else there will be a relapse.
Okay. Now, away from what you said, you've talked about things that could be done. So I assume you mean fiscal things like good roads, good power, electricity, energy, and all that, and cost of living, coming down. But we're seeing a new regime come up next year, and I know that small companies earning certain amounts of money are not expected to pay this company income tax come up next year. Will that in any way affect the revenue coming from the CIT for 2026 and going forward?
No, it would not, because it's important to also give to the small businesses and the startups, to give them some form of tax break to see how they can also grow to join the big players. So when they don't pay their taxes, they're also benefiting, because don't forget, taxes are really for distribution, distribution, and also interventions and all of this in the nation. Now, when the small businesses don't do CIT and all of that, they can channel that fund to growing their businesses to meet with to the level of other players who are doing, and also improve the employment situation in the country. And these are the discussions, really, because that's why the OPS are saying that, look, if you do this policy, it's going to be affected. Millions of us will be out of job. You're affecting backward integration that we have achieved all of these years. And also, this is a low-income earning nation, really. We're seeing the low-income earning bracket. So the small companies will not be burdened so much. Else, they will shut off. They will close down. We'll have unemployment crisis in our hand.
The SMEs, well, I've talked about that. You just answered that question now, and how they will be affected. The burden will not be so much on them, and you believe that this tax break is actually very good for them. Now, this trend that we have so far, how is it resilient? How resilient is it in the face of potential headwinds? We know, yes, inflation is now on a downward trend, but anything could happen. Currency is stable today, and all that. Yeah. So that volatility, how is this trend resilient in face of all these situations, the headwinds of inflation, currency volatility, and capital, rising cost of capital to do business?
Okay, so they are all interwoven, really. If the policy end of things are kept, say governments have looked at all of the happenings, checking inflation, getting banks to recapitalize, helping insurance companies to grow, it's important that at the end of the day, when all of this, if each company do their part, we can continue to gain on what is on ground, like the existing gains that we've achieved, we can grow on them. So my take will be every player, whether it is the small businesses, must do their part. They must understand that they need to grow. They must put back the money they have gotten as profits in the business to grow them. employment will go on. You have more persons, the multiply effect, more persons can be able to pay their taxes and solve problems in their family. Manufacturing will grow to cater for our needs in country. And also we can do better and also expect that we have foreign investment. The key is simple: grow your foreign direct investment and also keep your companies to pay taxes by creating an enabling environment for them. Also showing why they need to do this. Showing is key, really, because I mentioned before, taxes are good. They are great things that should happen to any country. Many countries survive only on tax.
Some don't. Some don't collect taxes.
Yes, some don't, but you must have resources, really. You must have an economic resource.
Which we do have.
Yes, but again, we have gotten gains in some of these things. Over the years, we've eroded some of the gains that we've gotten, but now we're here now. Non-oil sector is doing better. Before, we are reliant on the oil sector. Everybody was there. Now, fuel subsidy, better still, subsidies are gone. Interventions on the government end is stronger. Companies are paying their taxes. People are joining as well to pay the taxes. These are great gains. Countries, or better still, there are areas that survive only on housing tax. Housing alone can sustain certain countries. Okay. You know, so we can do that to sustain others. So we can even reduce all of the borrowings. We can generate this fund is here. The money is here.
Well, first of all, with the way the Nigerian housing sector is, and hopefully in the course of the year, we'll look into it on the program, with this arbitrarily rent increases. If you put taxing on it, I guess you want people to become mostly homeless. But that's it. That's it. Let's get to our second conversation, which is about the World Bank telling the federal government to cut import tariffs. Now, the World Bank, through its Nigeria Country Director, Matthew Verghese, has called on the federal government to cut high import tariffs and lift certain import bans on essential goods. The rationale: high tariffs and bans are contributing to elevated prices, especially of food and basic necessities, which in turn fuel inflation and erode purchasing power, hurting especially low-income households. The World Bank's analysis in its 2025 update argues that lowering tariffs could deliver immediate price relief, reduce consumer prices, and help curb poverty. They also suggest that by reducing distortions, Nigeria could improve customs efficiency, limit smuggling, and actually increase overall customs revenue over time, because a more open tariff regime may attract more legitimate trade. The bank emphasized that tariff reform should be part of a broader package, including structural reforms in agriculture, supply chain logistics, and fiscal policy to ensure sustainable benefits. Now, what are the potential benefits for Nigeria if we were to do it? Lower consumer prices, reduced inflationary pressures, improved household welfare, reduced poverty, boost to supply side and manufacturing, increased trade volumes and customs revenue, greater economic competitiveness and integration. The risk, trade-offs and challenges: impact on local producers, short-term revenue loss, structural constraints, dependency risk, smuggling, and regulatory compliance. You've heard all that number. First of all, the World Bank is simply, they have all their takes, and they, every time they say, let's do this, let's do that. And I've had someone on the show, or two people on the show, say that listening to the Bretton Woods organization is not really going to help your economy. First of all, do you agree with that take?
Chiamaka, we don't need to listen to the World Bank to know where we are. You know what's happening in your house. I don't need to tell you what's happening in your house. We have great economists who are in Nigeria. We don't need this. What the World Bank has said, it's true. It's true. We should know this already, that we need to really do more in terms of import and the duties on the import, because when the duties are high, the cost is passed on to final consumers. People can't afford, so you create room for illegality, and the informal business will take the day, and government can't even project. So it's important to keep a balance. This is something every simple economist should know, from even year one should know. We don't need the World Bank or any other big house to come tell us this. So I agree with your guest that has come here to say we don't need to hear this before we know. We should know. We have professors of economics that we can listen to. We have people who are analysts in this country who have served in other places that can tell us this. So it's important to know that, yes, the World Bank is correct. I agree on this. It's something that even the customs who are taking all of this should know. We don't need special talk on this matter.
But the reason for the import bans and the tariff is to help local production. Now, when you say, because the way I see it, when you say take away the import ban and take away the tariffs, it's mostly to enable the other exporting companies make money. I think, is that not how?
We're not saying take away. We're not saying take away.
That's what they're asking of.
No.
Take away high tariffs,
yes,
and import bans.
Yes, reduce the tariff. That's what we're saying. Reduce the tariff. The tariffs are high. How much does it take to import a vehicle? How much will you sell? Nigerians are reselling their vehicles. Vehicles is the simplest way you can know how your economy is in Nigeria.
Explain that.
Yes. I bought a vehicle some time ago, years ago, like say some 10 years ago. And so I still have it because I love the vehicle. When I was selling 3 times what I bought it.
But then inflation and numbers could make it.
Yes.
It could be the same thing you bought it for that you sold it for.
Maybe. Yes, it is. But what I'm saying in essence is because the other cars that are coming in are very expensive.
Okay.
People can't afford them.
Okay.
So the other vehicles that are even polluting the environment cost the same as they were 10 years ago, as they were 5 years ago. We can't afford
they're not reducing in value.
Thank you.
They're probably even increasing in value.
Thank you. The vehicles are so vehicles is the simplest way I can put it because I believe our viewers will know. Just using vehicles only to explain it. A car that is 3 million naira 10 years ago is now 9 million, or better still 10 million. Used vehicle in Nigeria that has gone through repair, wears and tear, and the rest of them. So it's to reduce tariff so that important products that can be used as the starting point for production can even come in. Because even the manufacturing association needs to do some form of importation to support local production.
Yes, okay.
Yes, you want to support the local production, yes, but the goods that are coming in must have a good price, must be at a good price for them to afford. Else, smuggling will be the order of the day, and government loses.
Okay, now, we talked about this, but which, you've mentioned manufacturing, but let's look at it. Which goods, because when we say reduce, which particular goods and sectors should see a tariff cut or bans lifted first? Of course, as you say, manufacturing, essential food items,
medicine,
or consumer goods. Out of these 3 now, I'm going to just give you these 3. Which should actually see it come first?
Okay, so let's look at it from the eyes of the end users. What is the number of end users who want to benefit from such a reduction in tariff? You've mentioned 3. You've mentioned 1 for manufacturing. What were the other 2?
Essential food items.
Essential food item.
And consumer goods.
Oh, great. So now I'm in a dilemma because, the reduction in essential food items will also affect in-house production of farmers who have invested millions to produce. So we must come to a balance, really. We should be talking about reduction of inputs for farming, for farming, right? And reduction in machinery, so farmers can afford machines.
So input for manufacturing,
yes,
should save
input
first.
as well for manufacturing. We should go input mostly so that local production can do better. But most importantly, improve on our export. Export is also key. For this balance to happen, we must have effectual and effective export to go.
Now, there are 2 sectors that if this situation were to happen will be hugely impacted. Of course, again, manufacturing and agriculture. True. How will the government do what it can to get those 2 major sectors protected from influx of imports? Because again, you said balance. So what way should they balance?
Okay, so I've just said it right. So most importantly, in terms of input, the first levels of production, what are the chemicals required for my manufacturing? What are the primary raw material that I can't access here in Nigeria that I need these are the kind of items that government can put, better still allow for. Also in agriculture, inputs, machineries, to support local agriculture. These are what I expect that the government will look into, and also in health as well, because some of the things that we use here in Nigeria in our health sector are mostly imported, from medicines, from essential medicine to even machinery, the machines for diagnostics. So the government was looking into this because the health of the nation is also key. When I'm alive, I will need food, and also I'll go for manufactured goods. Similarly, when I've eaten, my health will improve, and I will go for manufacturing goods. So it's a nexus between manufacturing, the health, and agriculture.
Okay.
Supported by the financial sector and the rest of it.
All right. Thank you so much for your insights on our conversation on the CIT and the World Bank. Now, I told you earlier I was going to ask you for your take, and would have done that earlier, but we could do it now. The MPC meeting has come and gone, and what do you think happened with the rate cuts being maintained? And this is going to bring me to another question on this. Do you think it would be best to have a slow phase out or just an abrupt cut? That's on the issue we're talking about, the CIT issue. Not the CIT, the World Bank talking about the tariffs. Do you think that it would be better to just, okay, we'll take off the tariffs, maybe from 15% we go to 12, then we go to 10, as opposed to just going straight to 10 from 15? And of course, the MPC rate, 27%. What's your take?
So the MPC rate really is expected, right? Because as I mentioned in a few places, and also last time on the show, the CBN is playing to the book. They are maintaining every economic writings, and every economic document to keep the ratings the way they are, and just to see how all the sectors interact. And it's key. You must find a place for stability. It's key to find. So if you talk about even jumping, okay, I'm on 15% today, I want to reduce to 10. You're not culturing the economy properly. Let's see how it plays out. The economy must not be a place for emotion. Let's see how everybody interacts with. Let's see how all the competing sector or all the sectors interact with what we have produced. Let's even see how companies are able to meet up. Because if policy changes back and forth, will erode investors' confidence, And even Nigerians are even saying now on some fora, they will not do the tax thing by January. Nigeria, they will change it. They will move it to March. Yes, it's a discussion in a lot of fora currently, So the government and our policymakers must find a way to be firm on choosing metrics to say, this is where we are. Also, those metrics are not just chosen. They are benchmarked against certain standard. They are not from chance. They are benchmarked from a certain standard. So stay on it and see the interactions that you get from all of the sectors that will be affecting it, or the sectors that impacts on it or impacts on. So because changing policies all the time will erode confidence, even for the smallest, not really, even for the smallest or for the person who wants to invest. A person who is even planning to, an intentional investor will say, no, these people are not serious. Okay. Things are changing. I can't even make informed decision on these changes. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, JohnBosco Ezenwa, for your insights on our conversation this morning. Thank you very much. And that's it for Business Daily today. For more of our news programs and documentaries, do want to follow us on social media platforms and on our YouTube live stream. My name is Chiamaka Nwafor. Same time, same place next week. Bye for now.